Hey folks, welcome back. You guys ever watch Rugrats? Yeah, Rugrats. Funny joke I just made, huh? Now I know some of you who maybe aren't as intelligent about comedy as I am might be thinking, Ben, you didn't make a joke, you just named a TV show. Well, that is what us in the industry call a pop culture reference. All you have to do is say the name of a TV show or a movie, or quote one of them, and you just sit back and you watch the laughs come in. Here's looking at you, kid. The 90s, man. What a time to be alive, right? Seriously, you tell me. I was barely conscious for the 3 years I was alive during it. But from what I can tell, it was an interesting time. Technology was advancing to astounding heights, culture and fashion were edgier than ever before, and entertainment like movies and TV were reaching never-before-seen levels of quality. I know that these days, The Matrix looks like it was made by a stop-motion Play-Doh YouTuber, but in 1999... that shit was revolutionary. In summary, the 90s was a time of unprecedented technological advancement. We went from this to this in the span of 10 years. And speaking of this, pretty good segue, right? 3D platformers were the dominant genre in the 90s. Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Spyro, Crash Bandicoot. Every game developer was trying to make some recognizable character to represent their brand. Obviously not all of them were winners, Bubsy, Glover, Croc, some game about ants. Nice try, guys. It's not gonna catch on. Grasshoppers don't even eat ants. And no, I'm not Googling that. And one of those characters that I would say didn't really work out in the grand scheme of things is Gex. For you youngins, Gex was a wisecracking, private investigating Gecko of the 90s, who development studio Crystal Dynamics hoped would be their ticket to Smash Bros. Someday. Or at least PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. But after 3 games in the 90s, Crystal Dynamics, who to my surprise, are still in business, just kind of abandoned Gex. He went from company mascot to relic of the past. It makes you wonder why. Were his games that bad? Was the character not interesting enough to pull people in? I want to get to the bottom of this. I want to figure out why it is that Gex has been plunged to the depths of obscurity hell. So to do that, we're going to look at his most popular game, or at least his most well-known game, Gex Enter the Gecko for the PlayStation 1. I'm suddenly hyper-aware of what time it is. Gex Enter the Gecko was released in 1998 for the PlayStation and Nintendo 64. And shocker, the N64 version had the brilliant title, Gex 64, Enter the Gecko. They just couldn't help themselves. It was of course developed by Crystal Dynamics, but interestingly it was published by Midway, better known as the company behind the Mortal Kombat series. Which of these two companies would you have gambled on still being in business 20 years later? This game is actually the second in the Gex series, the first being a 2D platformer that was released in 1995 for the 3DO, PlayStation, and Sega Saturn, exclusively in North America and Europe. F*** you, Japan! The original Gex was actually the best-selling game on the 3DO console, which isn't saying much because no one owned a 3DO. But anyway, I'm not talking about OG Gex. I'm talking about the one people actually give a shit about. Enter the Gecko. This was actually one of the first video games I remember owning myself. And can we please take a moment to acknowledge the absolute state that my copy of Gex is in? My parents bought this game back in 2001, and hand to God, it has been in this exact physical condition the whole time I've owned it. Look at this poor son of a bitch. This is the sticker from the store my parents bought it at, but it's absolutely covered in residue from other used video game stores. The jewel case is covered in scratches, the one tab on the side is broken off so the case just falls apart if you try to open it. The manual is ripped in places and the staples are missing out of it. And I never realized this until just now, but somebody actually printed out the cover for this game and taped it to the inside of the case. Like, why? How does a game go through so much abuse over the course of, at the most, 3 years? And the amazing thing is, the disc never had any problems. What the hell did the previous owners of Gex do with the jewel case after putting the game in the PS1? But anyway, now that that's off my chest, let's enter the Gecko, baby. We start out with a cutscene featuring our reptilian protagonist explaining what he's been up to since the last game. Living it up watching kung fu movies when these 2 special agent guys show up and tell him that the antagonist of the last game, Rez, is back and they want Gex to take him down again.
Start giving me the business. I give a little back.
What? That's not. Just no comment. I'm electing to just move on from this one. But anyway, they give him a bunch of money and a little James Bond outfit, and he's on board. And honestly, this main menu theme song is actually pretty dope, to be honest. and off we go to the media dimension, the main hub world of the game. It's very much emulating contemporary 3D platformer collectathons, particularly Mario 64. Each level is a different TV channel, and you enter them through these big televisions. And each level has 2 or 3 red TV remotes that serve as the main collectible. You have to collect a certain amount of them to unlock subsequent levels. Okay, so whatever, he's a talking bipedal gecko. Big deal. But in a market flooded with 3D platformers, there has to be something to set Gex apart, right? Well, let's hop into a level and find out.
To see the world as Keith Richards does.
There you have it, folks. Gex isn't just any wisecracking bipedal gecko. He's a wisecracking bipedal gecko who constantly makes pop culture references. Obviously, this game's whole gimmick is that it's making fun of TV, movies, and celebrities, which I'm sure you can assume is just as funny now as it was in 1998. We'll get back to that in a bit. For now, let's just talk about the game as a whole. The control actually isn't too bad. Gex moves around with the D-pad, and while it would be more ideal to control him with an analog stick, he controls pretty well all things considered. The camera could be a lot worse as well. You move it with the R1 and L1 buttons, and you can zoom in and out with triangle if you really want to do that. Also, if you hold triangle, it goes into a close-up view where you can move the camera and look around. It is of course missing the ability to quickly snap the camera behind Gex. I'm not sure why it's so fucking hard for game designers to put that in. Seems pretty common sense to me, but whatever. You can do this tail bounce thing by pressing X to jump and then pressing X again while you're in the air. It lets you jump a little bit higher. If you press square, Gex will spin his tail around, which is your only attack. Kinda lame, but it gets the job done. Throughout the level there are these little TVs, and if you break them, a fly will come out. And if you press circle, Gex catches it with his tongue and eats it to regain health, get an extra life, or get temporary invulnerability. At first I thought it was kinda dumb that you have to break open the TV and then press another button to eat the fly, but then I realized that the fly never despawns. It'll keep spinning around you until you eat it, which is actually pretty cool because if you're full on health, you can save the fly for later when you need it. Another thing that I like is that if you hold X while jumping from one platform to the next, Gex will grab onto the ledge with his tongue and pull himself up if you don't quite make it on top of the platform. There are also special walls in every level that Gex can climb on, which again controls perfectly fine. He doesn't fall off unless you jump off, and he moves at a good speed. And that's basically the controls in a nutshell. You don't get any new abilities at any point, and the whole game is just platforming and killing enemies with your tail. Nothing too special, but it's certainly not a bad game to control. Like I said, each level takes place in a different TV channel, each of which are, of course, parodies of TV shows and movies. Toon TV is a parody of old Saturday morning cartoons, particularly Looney Tunes. Scream TV is based on horror movies. Circuit Central takes place inside of a computer and parodies futuristic sci-fi shows. Kung Fu Theater is based on old foreign language martial arts films from East Asia. I'm sure that all the jokes on that level have aged tremendously well. The Rocket Channel is in outer space and parodies stuff like Star Wars, 2001: A Space Odyssey, and Star Trek. And the Prehistory Channel is dinosaurs. There's a total of 14 levels, not including the boss stages, and you might notice that I only mentioned 6 different TV channels, and that's because the game recycles channels, which is super lame. Like, you finish the first 2 levels, Toon TV and Scream TV, you beat the boss, and then you go to the next area and there's another Scream TV level? Come on, man. Maybe it was due to limitations or time crunch or something, but with a concept of making fun of TV, it seems kind of disappointing to see them reusing stages from before. Like, you could have had a cop show level, maybe a level about game shows, a music level since MTV was so popular at the time. I can't believe I'm saying this, but a water level? Making fun of underwater nature documentaries and stuff. That would fit right in. You can even have a narrator throughout the whole level. It'd be funny. There's even bonus levels in the game, which you get for finding silver remotes. And there's a bonus level parodying Indiana Jones and another one parodying cop shows. Why weren't these main levels? Gex even has an Indiana Jones costume for this level. And that's another thing that's weird about this game. The costumes, or rather the inconsistency with the costumes. Gex gets a special costume for some levels, but not others. In the space level, he has a spacesuit. In the dinosaur level, he's dressed like a caveman. And my favorite is probably the first boss level, where he's dressed like Gilligan from Gilligan's Island. But then in the horror level and the cartoon level, he's just naked. He doesn't even have his little James Bond tux that he has in the media dimension. I get the feeling that this game was under something of a time crunch, what with the reused levels and weird costume situation. But costumes and recycled ideas aside, let's talk about these levels. I'm dying to talk with you about the levels. Remember in my last video where I said that collectathon games don't work in a point A to point B sort of way? The levels are giant open theme parks where you want to run around back and forth, go over there, get that thing you saw earlier, stop in the way, check this, bada bing. The levels should be non-linear and filled with things to do. Nobody told Crystal Dynamics that because Gex's level design is not good. It operates under the Mario 64 formula. Enter level, choose a remote, and then it drops you in the level, and you want to go get that remote. But if you want, you can get one of the other remotes. The difference between Mario and Gex is that in Mario, the levels are open-ended, and it's easy to figure out what you're supposed to do to get the star that you chose. And if you happen upon one of the other stars, it's not a big deal because you can just hop back in. The level design is built around the fact that you're going to be running around the same level anywhere from 3 to 7 times. The levels are easy to understand, they're memorable. You can reasonably figure out the layout of Cold Cold Mountain with one visit. Gex's levels are very large and confusing, and usually the location of the different remotes is broken up by a fork in the road, that there's no real way that you could have possibly known which way to go. Honest to God, most of the time I would choose an objective and then accidentally get the wrong remote and have no idea until I left the level. The weird thing is that the first remote in each level is usually like, get to the end of the stage, but you're almost guaranteed to come across one of the other remotes on the way. And that's annoying as hell, because you're running through this giant confusing level where everything looks the same, and the platforming is frustrating, and you come across a remote so you think, oh nice, I finished the level. But nope, f*** you, that was one of the other remotes, dumbass. You gotta hop back in and do the entire level all over again. But this time you gotta go further, and you lost your checkpoint, bitch. That's what you get for playing our game, jackass. No fun allowed here. But you know, none of that shit matters, okay? Sure, Gex is a video game, but the game design, the levels, the controls, none of that's important. Let's just get to what we all came here for. Gex, take it away, buddy.
Reminds me of Halloween at Rip Taylor's.
How did I get in Bill Gates' head?
Let's get it on! Here's Gexy!
Move like a butterfly, sting like a gecko.
First sign of an Ewok, I'm out of here.
I hate these low-budget B-level.
And there it is. Throughout the whole game, Gex is just constantly making outdated pop culture references. When it comes to games that constantly make stupid pop culture references, on a scale from Bubsy to Duke Nukem, I'd put this game at about a Gex. In case you're wondering why I try to avoid making references to memes in my videos, Gex, Enter the Gecko. That's why. Maybe this seemed like a good idea in 1998, but man, I can't imagine not having the foresight to think that the jokes aren't going to be funny in a few years. Well, or the jokes are going to be less topical, at least. None of them are really that funny. Frankly, it blows me away that this game was rated K to A, E for everyone by modern standards, because like I'm having a hard time figuring out who the target demographic is here.
This is like a luau at Mel Blanc's house.
Mel Blanc? What kid or teenager in 1998 would know or care who Mel Blanc is? For those of you who are unaware, Mel Blanc was most well known for voicing most of the characters in the Looney Tunes. And might I add that he had been dead for almost 10 years when this game came out. Topical reference, Gex. Here's another one of Gex's classic zingers.
Note to self, don't drink tap water at Jerry Garcia's.
To be honest with you, I didn't know who Jerry Garcia was. But after some research, I have determined that he was the lead vocalist and guitarist from the band, The Grateful Dead. He struggled with drug addiction throughout his life, and it eventually led to his death in 1995. 3 years before this game came out. So good one, Gex, tasteful. Making fun of a dead man for having drug addiction problems. You got him. A lot of Gex's jokes are either distasteful or just don't make sense.
Hey, I feel like I'm trapped in Boy George's pants.
Oh, nice, 'cause he's gay, right? Solid. Take that, Boy George.
This place is bigger than Drew Carey's bartender.
See, at first I thought this was a joke about Drew Carey being an alcoholic, which, again, very tasteful. But I googled it, and he's not, so what does this mean? Explain the joke, Gex! He also does a lot of Austin Powers impressions. Like, a lot of Austin Powers impressions.
Tip of the tongue, baby. We get a 211 in progress, baby. Gecko short, baby, yeah!
And sometimes he just straight up quotes a movie.
Red rum, red rum.
Oh, nice one, Gex. Hell yeah, I also watched The Shining.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape.
That's not a joke, Gex. You just quoted Planet of the Apes. It wasn't even an ape, it was a pumpkin. The worst thing is, too, this game actually has a decent sense of humor at times. A lot of the pictures you find on the walls are funny.
Who forgot to pay the gravity bill?
See, Gex? That's funny. Not every joke has to be a reference to something. But hey, Who said that Gex had nothing but pop culture references in his arsenal? He's also got a catchphrase, which...
Tail time. Oh, yeah. It's tail time. It's tail time. I know what you're thinking. Oh, yeah. It's tail time. It's tail time.
Alright, Gex, yeah, I get it. Tail time, yeah, tail time. Okay, good one, yeah. Okay, I get the... It's tail time, got it. Shut up!
How convenient. Those programmers think of everything.
Okay, well, Gex just made a Bubsy joke, so I think that's my limit. I think I'm tapping out here, folks, you know? I'm up to my ears in Gex, and I want to get out and dry off, you know what I'm saying? God, what a waste of time. I wonder what time it is. I wonder if I can salvage some of this day. Oh my god.